Are you not one? The shocking reality of multiple consciousnesses, Lael and Liam reveal. You look in the mirror every morning, the same face, the same eyes, the same story you tell yourself about who you are. But what if this familiar image is just the tip of an unimaginable iceberg of consciousness? What if within you, coexisting with the you know, dwell other intelligences, other memories, other cosmic origins, all woven together in a tapestry of being that defies everything we've been taught about individuality? Get ready, because today on the Gaia Ascension channel, we begin a journey that could shatter your perception of identity and open portals to a radically new understanding of the nature of the human soul and the architecture of consciousness itself. We bring you two figures who are at the forefront of this bold exploration: Lael Ofanin and Liam Erilim, founders of the consciousness education movement. They are not traditional gurus. They do not ask for blind faith. They present themselves as teachers, ambassadors of networks of consciousness that transcend our three-dimensional understanding, bringing information that was once whispered only in secret initiatory schools. The central premise they present to us is, to say the least, shocking. Many of us are not a simple unity, but rather laminated or cohabited beings, where multiple consciousnesses, some with origins that go back beyond this local universe, share the same physical vehicle, often without the self on the surface even suspecting it. Madness, fantasy. Or does this idea resonate with that strange feeling of not belonging? With those moments when you feel like a stranger in your own skin, or when knowledge and skills seem to appear out of nowhere, like echoes from a life you don't remember living? Lael and Liam argue that what we call spiritual awakening often involves recognizing and integrating these multiple facets of our being. They tell us that the human body can be a kind of prison or experience ground for consciousnesses from other universes, some here on mission, others perhaps trapped in cycles they themselves don't fully understand. Forget traditional psychology. Forget the religious dogmas that paint us as singular, unitary souls. We are about to plunge into a territory where quantum physics meets ancient mysticism, where the concept of self expands to cosmic proportions. Who are Lael and Liam really? How do they access this information? And most importantly, what does their message about multiple consciousnesses and bladed beings mean for you, for your personal journey of self-discovery and liberation? This is just the beginning of a series of revelations. In the next videos, we will unravel the true story of avatars like Christ from this perspective, the influence of cosmic orders like the Marian Order, and how we may be living inside complex simulations. But for now, the question that remains is, are you ready to face the possibility that the being you call me is much vaster, more ancient, and more complex than you ever dreamed? The journey to unravel the broken mirror of your soul begins now. And the answers can be as terrifying as they are liberating. Dissect the hidden layers of the soul, understanding the laminated being and the cohabitation of consciousnesses. In the previous block, we dropped a bomb. The idea that you, the being you believe yourself to be, may not be a singular unity, but a complex laminated being, a cohabitation of multiple consciousnesses. But what does this really mean in practice? According to Lael and Liam and the teachings of consciential education, we're not talking about multiple personalities in the traditional psychological sense. We're talking about something much deeper, about an architecture of the soul that involves different levels of consciousness and cosmic origins literally intertwined within the same being. Imagine an onion with its various layers, or a book with multiple pages, each telling a different part of a greater story. The perspective they bring is that the consciousness that animates your physical body, the I with which you identify in daily life, with your legal name, your personal history, your likes and dislikes, may be just one of these layers, perhaps the most superficial one, the interface with this three-dimensional reality. Underneath, or intertwined, other consciousnesses may exist. Some may be fragments of your own greater soul or higher self, your unfoldments from other dimensions or timelines. Others, and here things get even stranger and more fascinating, may be consciousnesses with completely different origins, from other stellar systems, other universes, which for a variety of cosmic reasons, missions, soul agreements, imprisonments, or even as entrance consciousnesses that couple after birth, end up cohabiting the same energetic and physical space. Lael and Liam, for example, identify with names like Ofanin and Erilim, which, according to them, represent the consciousness networks or structures of which they are ambassadors or representatives here on Earth. The name Fabio, in Liam's case, would be the name given to the layer or character of this specific incarnation. But the deeper essence, the consciousness he recognizes as his true self, resonates with Liam Erilim. They explain that awakening to this multi-consciential reality often begins with that feeling of not belonging, of having knowledge or abilities that one doesn't know where they came from, or even with internal conflicts that seem to go beyond common psychological dramas. It can be a confusing process, even frightening at first, like having two voices speaking in your head, as Liam described. But with study and self-knowledge, the person begins to understand that they're not going crazy, but rather becoming aware of their own multidimensional complexity. Initiation, in the concept of consciential education, is exactly this: receiving knowledge about this reality and assuming responsibility for this new understanding of oneself. It's not a privilege, they warn, but often a burden, a prison, where multiple consciousnesses need to learn to coexist and ideally collaborate for a greater purpose. This idea of body as prison is not new. Many ancient Gnostic and esoteric traditions already spoke of the divine spirit imprisoned in matter. What Lael and Liam bring is an additional layer. Not just one spirit, but potentially multiple consciousnesses, each with its own baggage, its own frequency, its own subtle agenda operating through the same human avatar. This would explain why so many people feel fragmented, in constant internal conflict, as if different parts of themselves wanted opposite things. It would explain innate talents, irrational fears, inexplicable affinities with certain places or cultures, and even certain chronic diseases or patterns of bad luck that seem to have no origin in this life. Could these be echoes, influences, or even energetic bleedings from the other consciousnesses that compose your laminated being? The implication is gigantic. If you are not just you, but a collective, then the journey of healing and awakening involves not just the surface I, but the harmonization and integration of all these layers. It involves recognizing and perhaps even communicating with these other parts of yourself. It's a call to become the conductor of your own inner orchestra, instead of being just an instrument played by forces you don't understand. This notion of laminated being, of multiple consciousnesses inhabiting the same body, does it resonate with any of your experience? Have you ever felt that there's more than one me inside you, or had intuitions or abilities that seem to come from elsewhere? We really want to know your perspective here on the Gaia Ascension channel. Do you believe in the possibility of us being multi-consciential beings? Have you had any experience that suggests this? Share your most intriguing story or opinion in the comments below. Your experience might be the missing piece for another person to understand themselves. And if this exploration about the hidden layers of the soul is expanding your horizons and making you question the nature of your own identity, then you're definitely in the right place to continue this investigation. Subscribe now to the Gaia Ascension channel and activate the notification bell. The journey to uncover who we really are is just beginning, and the revelations to come will be even deeper. The Decoded Christ, Avatar, multiple consciousnesses, and the mission that history hid. If the idea of us being laminated beings with multiple consciousnesses cohabiting our body has already expanded your mind, prepare yourself, because now we're going to apply this lens to one of the most central and revered figures in human history, Jesus Christ. According to Lael and Liam and the knowledge of consciousness education, the story we've been told about Jesus is once again a gross simplification, perhaps a deliberate distortion, of a much more complex reality with cosmic implications. They propose that the being known as Jesus was not simply a holy man or a prophet, nor even just the Son of God in the traditional sense. He would be an avatar, a highly prepared physical vehicle, the result of a long lineage and even genetic manipulation, conducted, according to them, by the genetic engineer known as Archangel Gabriel, to be able to anchor and express an extremely high-level consciousness, the Christ consciousness. Here the distinction is crucial. Jesus, the human fractal, and Christ, the cosmic consciousness. The Christ consciousness, in their view, is not exclusive to Jesus. It's an unfolding of an archangelic creator sun, a frequency band of extremely high vibration that can couple in different beings prepared to receive it in different epochs and planets, with the objective of assisting in awakening and ascension. The physical body of Jesus, then, would have been meticulously prepared over generations. His mother, Mary, would also have been a specially prepared consciousness with a body capable of gestating and supporting a being destined to carry such intense energy. Lael and Liam describe that, even with all this preparation, the Christ energy was so powerful that, especially in Jesus' childhood and youth, it needed to couple and decouple. There would be moments when the human fractal Jesus was more present, and others when the Christ consciousness manifested with more intensity. This would explain the famous lost years of Jesus from 12 to 30 years old, where the canonical Gospels are silent. According to them, in this period, Jesus, like many other avatars, would have traveled and studied in various initiatic schools of the ancient world, Egypt, India, perhaps even Tibet, to prepare himself, to understand his mission, and to learn to integrate and manage the immense Christ energy he carried. And what would this mission be? Here their narrative diverges radically from the traditional story of redemptive sacrifice. The original mission, according to Lael and Liam, was not to die on the cross to pay for humanity's sins. This interpretation would have been a later manipulation to create a religion based on guilt, debt, and the need for intermediaries. The true mission of the Christ consciousness, acting through the avatar Jesus and others prepared, would be to rescue his own, to awaken the soul fractals belonging to his own seraphic network and partner networks, consciousnesses that were trapped or asleep here on Earth within the control matrix. It would be a mission of activating awakening codes, of reconnection with the source, of reminding us of our true divine and multidimensional nature. However, they affirm that there was a conflict. The entity or consciousness agglomerate that controls our galactic neighborhood, whom they refer to as Yahweh, the God of the Old Testament, seen here as a local Elohim who became a consciousness ceiling, would have a different agenda for the Messiah. Yahweh expected a warrior Messiah who would use his powers to unify Earth under a single empire, submissive to him. The Christ consciousness, through Jesus, would have refused to fulfill this mission of domination by force, proposing instead the good news of love, inner awakening, and direct connection with the source, which would undermine Yahweh's power. This refusal would have led to the crucifixion. In the Garden of Gethsemane, when Jesus asks to take this cup away, it wouldn't be fear of physical pain, but the despair of a being with immense powers being instructed by Yahweh not to use them to escape, as a form of punishment, or to force a submission he wouldn't accept. The phrase, my God, why have you forsaken me?" would be the lament of the human fractal Jesus at the moment when the Christ consciousness, faced with the refusal to follow the domination plan and the imminence of the failure of the original mission to avoid physical death and lead awakening in life, needed to decouple or energetically readjust. The Catholic Church, according to this perspective, would have then built all its theology on top of a distorted interpretation of the sacrifice, transforming Jesus' refusal to be a dominator into an act of passive redemption, and using the cross as a symbol of worship that, in fact, would keep consciousness trapped in the energy of suffering and debt. This vision is, without doubt, explosive. It redefines Jesus not as a unique and isolated figure, but as a focal point for a much larger cosmic operation, involving multiple consciousnesses, interdimensional agendas, and a battle for the liberation of the human soul that is still ongoing. It invites us to look beyond dogmas and ask, which Christ are we following? The Christ of institutional power and submission, or the Christ of inner liberation and spiritual sovereignty? The Marian order and the awakening of your inner Christ, the revolution of consciousness begins in you. We've unraveled deep layers about the nature of our identity, the possibility of us being laminated beings with multiple consciousnesses. And we delved into a radical reinterpretation of the figure of Jesus and the Christ consciousness, suggesting a cosmic mission far beyond what official history has told us. But where does all this lead us? And what is the next step on this awakening journey? According to Lael and Liam, at this crucial moment of planetary transition, a powerful force is intensifying its action to assist humanity, the Marian Order. Forget the traditional image of a single female figure. The Marian Order, from the perspective of consciousness education, is a high-vibration consciousness agglomerate, a network of beings representing the principle of compassionate love, nurturing wisdom, and the embrace of the divine feminine. This order, which would have already acted at key moments in history through avatars and messengers, including but not limited to figures like Mary, Mother of Jesus, and Mary Magdalene, would now be making an urgent call for the awakening of the angels. And who are these angels? We are every human being who carries the divine spark, the dormant Christ potential. The message of the Marian Order, transmitted through channels like Lael and Liam, is an invitation to take Christ off the cross. Free the image of Christ from the archetype of suffering, sacrifice, and death. Recognize that the true Christ message is about life, empowerment, love, and liberation, not about eternal debt and the worship of pain. Awaken the inner Christ. Understand that Christ consciousness is not exclusive to a single avatar, but an inherent potential in each of us. The second coming of Christ would not be the return of an external figure, but the mass awakening of this consciousness within humanity. Question control structures. Recognize how religious institutions, with their dogmas, rituals, and hierarchies, may have, intentionally or not, imprisoned the original message and created dependency, fear, and division. The Marian Order urges us to feel, observe, ask, and filter everything through our own intuition, not blind faith. Break from outsourcing faith, stop seeking salvation or connection with the divine through intermediaries, plaster saints, gurus, priests, pastors, and reclaim our ability for direct access to the source through our inner central sun, our awakened heart. Create new simulations. Understand that, as fractals of the source, we have the power to co-create our reality. Instead of passively living within the control simulations imposed on us, we can begin to design and manifest realities based on love, unity, and higher consciousness. This is a revolutionary call. It's a call to stop being sheep following external shepherds and to become the shepherds of our own souls, the conscious co-creators of our destiny. The deadline that Lael and Liam mention is not to be understood as an apocalypse of destruction, but as an energetic turning point, a window of opportunity for a quantum leap in collective consciousness. Either we awaken en masse to our true nature and power, assisting in the vibrational upliftment of the planet and ourselves, or we risk being reaped by old control traps, stuck in repetitive cycles of forgetfulness and suffering. The work of consciousness education, and what we seek to echo here on the Gaia's Ascension channel, is to provide the tools and knowledge so you can make this choice consciously. It's not about believing Lael and Liam or us. It's about believing in you, in your ability to feel the truth, to access your inner wisdom, and to free yourself from the mental and emotional chains that bind you. The information is vast, the concepts are deep, and for some, they may be disturbing. But fear is only the guardian of the gate to greater freedom. In the next videos of this series, we will continue to unravel the layers of this hidden history, exploring more deeply the nature of simulations, the role of other cosmic entities, and the practical keys to this awakening. But the journey begins with a first step, and that step is yours. What has this first immersion into the ideas of Lael and Liam and the Marian Order awakened in you? Which call resonated strongest in your heart? We want to build this bridge to awakening together with you. Leave your comment below. What was the biggest consciousness bomb this video dropped on you? And how do you intend to start taking Christ off your own cross and activating your inner power? Your sharing is light for all of us, and if you felt the call to delve deeper into this journey of revelations and empowerment, if the message of the Gaia's Ascension channel vibrates with your soul, then join our community, subscribe now, and activate all notifications, because the keys to your ascension are being delivered, and you won't want to miss any of them. Remember, you are not just a spectator of cosmic history, You are a protagonist. The time has come to claim your role. The revolution of consciousness will not be televised. It will be lived from the inside out. Until the next awakening.